Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Jordan Davis Podcast. I am your host, Jordan Davis, and on today's episode, I will talk about why Kylo Ren and Rey's Force Bond is Star Wars version of soulmates, and also I will talk about why the Rise of Skywalker will have the biggest opening weekend in Lucasfilm history. But before I get into that, if you like the content that I give you about Star Wars, Marvel, DC, and all other blockbuster news, it'd be awesome if you can like, comment, and subscribe to my podcast so I know what you like so I can give you the best content as possible. So now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about why I think The Rise of Skywalker would be the biggest Star Wars movie in box office history, at least in Lucasfilm history. Now, when we think about that, Star Wars has always made lots and lots of money. It doesn't matter if it was opening weekend, worldwide, or after its run at the theater. Because when we look at the sequel trilogy, we look at the prequel trilogy, we even look at the original trilogy. They've always made a lot of money. Especially with Force Awakens, it broke records opening weekend and made almost 500 to 600 million domestically when The Force Awakens came out, and for good reason. It was really getting people back into Star Wars. You got Han Solo, Princess Leia, and you got these new characters, Rey, Kylo Ren, Finn. You got so many great characters starting off in this new trilogy that it's really gonna get a lot of people back interested in the Star Wars, and that's exactly what it did. And it was awesome to see Star Wars back into the spotlight. Awesome to see Star Wars breaking records again, and it really reminded us what Star Wars really does to us. What really gives us, reminds us how much we love Star Wars. And just look at The Last Jedi and just how much it made. It made $220 million opening weekend. Because the return of Luke Skywalker into the movies. Then we got that dynamic between Rey and Kylo Ren slash Ben Solo really getting us excited for what is the future of Star Wars. What is the future of the sequel trilogy. So they have made a lot of money throughout the years. But I think if we think about The Rise of Skywalker, what it actually is, this is the end of the saga. This is a family soap opera, a family space soap opera going to end about the Skywalkers. If you saw the trailer, which I believe most of you are if you're listening to me right now, you know what it says in the trailer. The saga will end, but the story will live forever. Now that can mean many things. Story living forever. The story of Star Wars, the story of the Skywalkers, and maybe even the story of Rey and Ben will live forever. Because for me, when you read the story lives forever, that's romantic to me. That's kind of a romantic kind of relationship. Will they or won't they? But whatever happens, they that story will live forever. So we got a lot of that. We got a lot of setup. We got through these last two movies are going to conclude. Even the things that happened in the last 8 movies, J.J. Abrams said he will conclude it and put a nice little bow on it. So everything in the prequels, everything in the original trilogy, and stuff even in the sequel trilogy will be pretty much, you know, give its conclusion. It will put a big, fat Star Wars bow on everything we have seen through this 40 to 43 year story that Lucasfilm has been told or been telling. So I do believe this is going to be the highest opening weekend film that Lucasfilm has ever produced. Because we have already got the pre-sales tickets breaking records. That Fandango is already saying that The Rise of Skywalker pre-sales outmatch any Star Wars film ever in history. And we know how The Force Awakens did. We know how The Last Jedi did. The Force Awakens made $248 million. We we never thought no one would break that until obviously Endgame broke that. Or I believe it was Infinity War that broke it. Look back, I think Infinity War broke it. Yeah, Infinity War broke the Force Awakens record. And Endgame just, even broke it again. So, I mean, I'm not expecting the Rise of Skywalker to break Avengers Endgame record. I just don't know if that's possible. But I do think it's gonna break the Infinity War record. I do believe that that's going to happen because I do believe it's gonna break the Force Awakens record. It's gonna break the Last Jedi record for opening weekend numbers. I think it's gonna be in the high 250s. 257 to 259. I think it's just going to beat the Infinity War record, and it's going to be a great way to go out. Now, I've always said this that I think how this movie ends and how this movie is satisfying and emotionally satisfying doesn't matter if you're just a casual Star Wars fan who's just wondering how this saga is going to end, or you're a fan of Ben Solo, or you're a fan of Rey. You want to see how their story ends. You want to see if Ben Solo's story ends satisfying, that he does live and he is redeemed, and he finally gets that happy moment of all his life he's been miserable. And same thing with Rey. Does she finally, get that belonging that she's always wanted? Does she finally find that happiness that she wants at the end? Which, in my opinion, that's with Ben, which I will be talking about how they are soulmates later on in the podcast. Um, I think it's going to be very interesting how they really conclude everything, because I don't know for people who's listening right now, but I think for me at least, I know Ben Solo is going to be redeemed. I think that's perfectly obvious. He is going to be redeemed. That's where they're going. This is for the reason for the trilogy is Ben's redemption, because he is the prodigal son of all of this. And with Rey, I think it's really be interesting how they really conclude, because I always thought of her arc not really looking for family. I think it's just that belonging, really conquering a fear of being alone. Now, I'm not saying at the end that conquering that fear means she doesn't need anyone in her life. I think that's totally wrong. I think I think that she will be with Ben, because both of them won't be lonely anymore. Both of them will be together as two people who will never have to be lonely anymore. Who can be together and be happy, because this is a fairy tale, and it's kind of going towards the fairy tale of as many Disney stories that we've seen throughout the years. So I just believe that to end this saga on a happy note, not on a bittersweet, not on a tragedy, to end this on a happy ending for both of the main characters. I think that's very important, and a very important message to really send out. I think to really put it on a positive note that the last Skywalker, Ben Solo, and the last Jedi, Rey, ending the saga, looking towards the binary suns, just being together, and all of that, to really put on a positive note. I think that would just be a wonderful ending, and not just for a Rey and Ben shipper, or Ben Solo fan. I think just for the saga in general, because we have to remember that this saga and this story is one big overarching story about this family. Now, if Rey ends up being a Kenobi, which I don't think she will be, which is still possible, and I think it would really be interesting that the story has always been about the Kenobis and Skywalker relationship. Which I think that would be pretty interesting to look back on, and saying this is not only the Skywalker story, but this is also the relationship of the Skywalker and Kenobis throughout the whole generations. So, but I don't know if they're gonna do that, but I think Rey just being nobody, I think that's being just fine because it really gives us a message that you don't have to be anyone special. You don't have to have a famous last name to have the Force, to be powerful in the Force. Anyone can use the Force. Anyone can be a strong and powerful Force user, and the Force can choose anyone. So yes, it is about the Skywalker saga. Yes, it's mainly about Ben Solo's redemption and coming back to the light. But I think for Rey, it's about her being a nobody. I think that's more powerful because it sends a different message to everyone. It can be anyone, boy, girl, woman, man. That you don't have to have some famous last name. You don't have to, have something special about you. You just can be just a normal person, and and you can still have this, talent and special thing that you can do great things with. So I think that's a great message. I think that's a great thing to think about of what they're trying to tell people and what the message that is going on. Because I really do, the Rise of Skywalker is going to tell a lot of stories, and a lot of messages to tell the audience about, which that is the Skywalker saga is all about. It's all about telling the message of hope, family, love, and redemption. It really is all about. So I'm gonna be excited to see how much money does the Rise of Skywalker make, because I know it's gonna break all the Star Wars records, because this saga means a lot of people. And I'm not trying to say that the MCU does not mean a lot to people, but I just think Star Wars is a different animal. It's just something that has been with us for all our lives. Doesn't matter how old you are. You can be 5 or you can be 55. Pretty much everyone has seen Star Wars, and Star Wars has always been in a special place in our hearts. So, you know, it's just that kind of special that I don't think no movie has ever really gotten to yet. Maybe the MCU will get there 10, 15 years down the road. We won't know. But for now, that's what Star Wars is right now. So, tell me what you think in the comic section, comment section. Um, I, how much do you think the Rise of Skywalker is going to make? Do you think it's gonna be Infinity War? Do you think it's gonna just blow the Endgame's opening weekend out of the window? Or do you think it's gonna break the Last Jedi? Do you think it's gonna come close to Infinity War's um record? So tell me what you think. Tell me what the Skywalker saga means to you personally. What the messages mean to you personally, and how do you think these arcs are going to end? So, yeah, tell me all about it. Now, on to the last topic of today. I want to talk about why I think Kylo Ren slash Ben Solo and Rey are soulmates, and why their force bond makes them soulmates. Because I was, thinking on this about how we've never seen a connection. We've never seen something like this in Star Wars ever. Which I'm thankful for the sequel trilogy that they gave us this. Because this force bond between two people is so intimate and so connecting that you cannot get rid of it. It's like they are a part of you. Just like Rey is a part of Ben, Ben is a part of Rey. Nothing's going to change it. There's nothing she can do. It would be like cutting off her arm or cutting off her hand. It's gonna be, if you try cutting it off, it's gonna be noticeable. It's gonna hurt. And there's gonna be things that you can't do that you could before. And I think that's why in The Force Awakens that interrogation scene is so important to the sequel trilogy. That one scene is the foundation of this trilogy. It really is. It's the foundation. And to really think about it, how that interrogation scene really changed all of the sequel trilogy has really opened everyone's eyes that Rey and Ben are the central relationship. Rey and Ben are the central romantic relationship. Now, it might not be in front of your face, the romance as Han and Leia or Anakin and Padme, but it has those romantic tones. It has that sexual tension that you could cut with a knife. And they say in the Rise of Skywalker that they're gonna go deeper. Expect to go deeper into that relationship. Now that can mean anything. No doubt that can mean anything. But I think they will really hone in really hard that they're gonna go pretty romantic into this. The tone of the relationship will be romantic. Now, it's gonna be up to the audience member if they see that it's romantic, that it's really a romantic relationship they have always been planning up to. Because there are some people who don't see it yet. Now, I can understand that because The Force Awakens really was very hidden about that. And I wish that they told a little bit better way that they are the romantic couple. Because you really, really have to look hard for it. You really do in The Force Awakens. But in The Last Jedi, you can clearly see that they are that romantic couple. That you just have to look at the elevator scene in The Last Jedi, how they were about to kiss. If you gave them about 5 more seconds, they were going to kiss. It's a they were teasing that. They were setting up something like that. Now, in The Last Jedi, that didn't happen. But in The Rise of Skywalker, if that happens, I'll be just like everyone else, clapping, rooting, pure of excitement. But if we don't get a kiss, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind at all. As long, and this is a big, as long as we get both of them showing affection, romantic, loving affection of like holding hands, or both of them caressing each other's face with their hands, doing something like that, I think it would be something I would like to see if we don't get a kiss towards the end or whenever that we're gonna get a kiss. We don't know. But the reason why I thought about how Rey and Ben are soulmates and how the Force bond really helps with that, because we've seen other Force bonds in canon, I believe, with I think Yoda and Dooku. Count Dooku has a Force bond and connection, but nothing at this level, because I think it just makes it more legitimate and more kind of romantic that they have this Force bond that if one is separated from the other, they have this big wound inside them, a big empty wound that it just leaves something missing inside of them. Something is not right there. And that just makes it more of a soulmate. Now, there's different interpretations of different soulmates throughout, literature and movies and all of that. But I think in a good way, Rey and Ben are soulmates. Now you can say that they are the reverse Anadala. You can say that they are um kind of Anakin and Padme just reborn. You could say that. That's a possibility, yes. But I think this trilogy has always been about correcting the things that the prequel trilogy got wrong. I'm not talking about in a movie's form. I'm talking about of fixing the past, fixing what Anakin and Padme was supposed to do. I think Ben Solo and Rey will accomplish that. Will set things on the right path, defeating Palpatine. Ben Solo and Rey together will beat Palpatine. Their connection, their their force bond, and the feelings that they have for each other will not be their undoing. Anytime a villain says this is what is going to happen, and it ends up being the opposite. It ends up being the opposite. Benzo and Rey will not fail like Anakin and Padme failed. They are the reverse of everything that happened in the prequel trilogy. And I think they're gonna work through that in the relationship in this movie. I truly do. And I think we will even look deeper into how strong the Force is and just how deep they are as soulmates. Because I really don't know how you end the Skywalker saga besides them being together. You can't end another trilogy on a bittersweet moment. Now, I'm not saying that the prequels were bittersweet because actually it was pretty tragedy. It was pretty horrible. Original trilogy is more of a bittersweet. And so that's why I'm saying that them being together, them being Palpatine, their connection, them being this soulmates that the Force has connected in a deep and intimate and personal way. This will finally be the perfect mix that will finally be Palpatine, that will finally rid Palpatine of all his evilness, and will finally have Ben Solo come home. He is the last hope of all of this. And when you think about it, Ben Solo is just as a huge part of the story as Rey is. There's no doubt about it. So to really, to really think about it, them being the soulmates, the force that created these two soulmates to get together to beat the ultimate evil and for them to really complete each other is really a fantastic way to end all of this. It really is. Because they cannot do things without each other. They need each other. Rey needs Ben and Ben needs Rey. So I think it's going to be very interesting how they tackle that, and I'm so excited to see because personally for me, I hope they really go all or nothing because you can't be ambiguous about this. You can't be any more ambiguous with Rey and Ben, Reylo, however you want to say it. You gotta go full on romance. You have to point out that they have huge feelings for each other. They have romantic feelings for each other. Now you don't have to go all cheesy and cringy. You can do it in a great romantic epic way and do it with great storytelling. And I believe that's what's going to happen. I believe at the end of the day that we're gonna see that this is the Rey and Ben trilogy. This is the Soulmate trilogy. However you want to do it, they're gonna be the soulmates that survive all of this. That they finally these two people who are meant to be together, that might meant to fight the greatest evil in all of Star Wars, to bring that down and finally you know, be happy when either one of them have never been happy. He could finally belong to one another and can embrace it in that. And I think that's just really a great way to tell a great story and a great way to end a saga as big as this. So that's going to be it for this episode of the Jordan Davis podcast. I hope you enjoyed everything that I talked about today. Um, and tell me everything that you think of about everything I talked about with all the soulmates, how Rey and Ben could end this saga and trilogy. How do you think their arc's going to end? Do you think it's going to be satisfying? How do you think Rey and Ben being soulmates? Do you believe me? Do you agree with me? So I would love to have your feedback and so I can hear from you and what you think. So so until next time, I hope you have a blessed and awesome week. And for now, I'm signing off. See you later. Bye.